Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and this is another episode of Ridiculous Loadout. As you may already know, this is a series I started way back when in the Battlefield 3 days, basically whoring myself out for cheap views, running a suggested loadout from one of you in the comments section. Now, mostly, this is a not-so-tactical series where most of the loadouts are either troll or bad or just plain ugly looking. Really, I get a chance to try out a kit, a combination that I haven't thought of before, and maybe have good results with it. Mostly not though. So, this time, a suggestion comes from an Ivan who, he later told me his name was Ivan, so a fellow comrade, not like an overall name for a Russian, like, Tommy for a British guy or something like that. So, Ivan suggested the MOSSAD loadout of an MTAR-21, an angled grip, any laser sight, which was a no-brainer because the red laser sight was all I had unlocked at the time, a muzzle brake, and the hollow sight, as is one of my favorite sights of all time. Now, as for the secondary, he suggested the Glock 18 with the Dioptrichesky, the red dot sight, that's the first one that's unlockable, and the green laser sight, which thankfully came in the first battle black I had unlocked for the G18, and the heavy barrel. He also suggested I use C4, the M67 frag grenade, and the machete. Play as the support, he said. Now, I'm not sure why, but I really had a fun time with this loadout. It felt, like I was switched on that day. Not sure if it was a good connection or all that vodka I drank before the round, but I didn't have to record this round, it seems, in many takes. It took me something like 2 rounds, I think, to have all the enough footage that I needed, more even. I felt really good with this loadout, and the MTAR itself, although they nerfed it somewhat in one of the later patches in Battlefield 4, it still remains one of my favorite carbines of all time. It looks really alien and futuristic, and obviously it's a bullpup design sporting a magazine behind the pistol grip, thus giving it a longer barrel with a shorter overall dimensions. And actually the assault rifle, the TAR-21, or the Tavor assault rifle 21st century, was designed by Israeli weapon industries as a replacement for the M16A1, which they mainly used up until then. Obviously, the M16 was deemed to be too long for comfortable use, so the TAR-21 was designed to be shorter. And the MTAR is a micro version of the TAR-21 for special forces. In Battlefield 4, though, as I said, the MTAR looks and feels really great and has this funky looking reload animation that you just can't help but love. It takes a bit longer to complete this animation, but I am really glad that DICE brought it back from Battlefield 3, and I'm kind of liking its stats in Battlefield 4 too. It's got some really good hipfire accuracy, made all the better with the laser sight. Now, I don't actually know 100% how the laser affects the hipfire accuracy, or if DICE has a formula for it when equipped with other attachments. All I know is that it buffs your hipfire accuracy by about 1/3, so I won't be posting the exact numbers in the gun stats overlay. Now, the MTAR-21 also has a pretty big 30-round magazine for such a small carbine, and taking into account its rate of fire, a staggering 900 rounds per minute, you will have a full 2 seconds of continuous firing before you run out of magazine. So, the strategy for using the MTAR I think, is more to tap fire it, trying to be exact when aiming down sights, and obviously having a very healthy first shot multiplier of 2.8. The angled grip really comes in handy in these situations. I even found I could take out targets at medium range if I was reasonably accurate with my tap firing. And speaking of tap firing, the MTAR-21 has a built-in burst fire feature that could really come in handy, provided you're not using it in any kind of close quarter situations. Now, this is really interesting because normally I like to use my finger as the tap fire controller and leave the weapons, even the burst fire capable ones, on full auto. But as I said in a video I made a while back, DICE has taken a novel approach to the first shot multiplier, which was crippling the burst fire weapons. They patched it to affect the last shot of the burst instead of the first shot in the burst firing weapons. Now, what this means is that now the burst fire weapons are starting to see an advantage over the full auto ones. First of all, because they are being a bit more accurate, as the first shot isn't affected by the first shot multiplier kick anymore. And secondly, because some assault rifles, the AK-12 for example, have a higher rate of fire when burst firing in the default burst fire mode. Obviously, I mean in the built-in burst fire mode, and not tap firing with your finger, leaving the weapon on auto as I do all the time. Mostly I do it just because I forget about the burst fire mode, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't either. The muzzle brake was also a nice touch on the MTAR, as it helps with the upwards per shot recoil, and might have been the reason I felt reasonably confident hitting targets at medium range. If you're gonna use the built-in burst fire mode, the muzzle brake is a must-have, in fact, because the first two shots that come out of the gun will only be affected by the regular burst shot recoil, which the muzzle brake will deal with. So, in Battlefield 4, the MTAR-21 does a standard for the carbine's damage of 25 at 8 meters, which drops off to 15.4 at 50 meters. It has a standard muzzle velocity of 540 meters a second, which is one of the higher muzzle velocities of the carbines, and its rate of fire is a very quick 900 rounds per minute. It has one of the worst per shot upwards recoils of 0.34, and it also has a first shot multiplier of 2.8. Its reload speed is nothing to write home about, clocking in at 2.4 seconds for the short reload and a full 3 seconds for the long reload. So, needless to say, avoid running dry with the magazine, as the long reload is nothing you want to be stuck with in the middle of a fight. Interestingly enough, it also has the worst per shot spread increase among carbines, though not by much, but it is made a little worse by the extra weight of the muzzle brake. And I gotta say, I mostly always run these loadouts, film them on a domination server, or maybe a TDM server, because, the action is a lot more frequent and the maps are a bit smaller. But this time, having equipped the C4, I felt like doing a bit of damage to the vehicles. So I tried to find a Conquest small server, because obviously Conquest large wouldn't be it wouldn't make for a very good filming, that's for sure. And Conquest small, worked surprisingly well this time, as I was able to take out a couple of tanks with some C4, and felt really great about it. It's also immensely satisfying to me, I have to admit, to being a bit of a C4 whore, having been since Bad Company 2 all the way through Battlefield 3, and now I love the stuff in Battlefield 4. But one thing I don't get is why people always seem to be asking for the G18 as my sidearm in these loadouts. I mean, I have seen the G18 suggested the last 3 times in these loadouts, I think, and you see, I really dislike it, and I don't understand actually why a lot of people really like it. It does a lot less damage per shot than a semi-auto pistol, but if you use it in full auto, it pretty much becomes uncontrollable. The vertical kick and the per shot spread increase make me wonder how you can actually hit anything with the spray gun, and add to that the relatively small clip of 20 and the rate of fire to put any assault rifle to shame, and most you can do is tap fire it, otherwise you'll run out of ammo in a second. But tap firing is even worse because of the per shot multiplier, so in most cases I needed a couple of clips at least to get rid of one enemy when I ran it in Operation Locker Pistols Only TDM. I mean, it's ridiculously inaccurate. So, going by the stats, the Glock 18 does a maximum damage of 18 at 8 meters, which drops off to 10.8 at 55 meters. Now, remember, this is the per shot damage, so at 900 rounds per minute, that adds up to a bucket of lead. The problem is that this bucket of lead is pretty useless if you can't control it, and the G18 suffers from some severe accuracy issues, as I said before. It has the worst per shot upwards recoil of any pistol, namely 0.7, and the heavy barrel worsens it even more, making it a whopping 1.05. It also has a first shot multiplier of 2, which doesn't help matters either, and it also has the worst per shot spread increase, which, keeping in mind the mind-numbing rate of fire, also adds up very, very quickly. Surprisingly though, the G18 has the shortest short reload of only 1.2 seconds. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ridiculous Loadout, and now, because I don't feel like suffering alone, Ivan must also run this loadout and upload it to YouTube, and I'll accept the link down below in the comments below. So thanks for watching. Please rate and share these videos, it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.